All right, so are we ready? Yes, can you close the door for me, please? All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Hey. My name is Amma McKinley. I am a blogger, I am a writer, and I am initiated Yoruba priestess. I initiated into the Ifa Orisha practice in 2012. I initiated to the Orisha Obatala, and Oshun is my secondary Orisha for my mother. The point of this session is really not just academia, it's really my life. And it's really the crux of really who I am. Really how sexuality and spirituality were often opposed, but in this walk that I'm able to find that they actually are two sides of the same coin. So I want to speed through this because I have a lot of slides, a lot of information. I definitely want to have time for us to discuss when it's all done. I know you. You are Amber the activist. Oh my fucking God. No pressure, not real. No pressure. I just heard, okay, we'll talk. I am so happy you are here. Okay. So, let's get into it. This is my best friend and my sister Liz. Hey, Liz. Liz is clicking. This is my sister Ebony. Hey, Ebony. Hey. And so we just gonna be friends and we gonna go for it. Okay, go. I have always liked sex. When I was a kid, I used to fuck the shit out of my pillow. I was the best masturbator, and there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, I just knew how to do it. Like, I don't know if it was from a past life thing, but I was born knowing how to ride. I was always just very sexually engaged with myself. Loved Jessica Rabbit. I remember watching TV and watching shows and seeing characters be very sexy and alluring and wanting to emulate that. It was something that I was drawn to from the onset. And at some point, as I grew up, I always liked God too. So this is me in my favorite dress. Sonny, do you remember this dress, Abby?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That looks like Shango.
See, things we don't be knowing about. See what I'm talking about? Loved church, sang in the choir, like ran up to the stage to be baptized as a kid. Used to run and hug my pastor's like leg when I was a kid, like Sunday school, all that. Was very, very involved in the church. And then as I grew up, they were absolutely contradicted. Growing up in the South, and you grew up as a Christian, and then you were very familiar with this. So coming into being a preteen and a teen, I was introduced to the virgin and whore dichotomy. So I knew that to be a virgin was to then still be valuable. I knew that to be a virgin then was to still be holy and pure. But I also was watching videos and my hormones were raging, and so now I'm wanting to get it in, and boys want to touch my booty and I like it, but I'm not supposed to like it. And so I started being very familiar with that virgin whore dichotomy. I owned it when I started doing spoken word back in the day. My first name was Jailbait. I was teased. I was like, you can't have it all the way, it's mine. Really trying to make a place for it. Started to really to test gender and question ideas of gender and attraction. And do I like women? Yes, I like women. We can't talk about that. We don't have a really context about sexuality and attraction and what that is. So it was definitely something that was just internal. As I went to college and became very involved in campus ministry, I love singing and being on the praise team. And being an alto and a soprano. And to be a tenor if you want to try it. But as I was singing, I was also like the one that was having to sneak across campus from the boys' dorm in a hoodie with the walk shoe. Don't even ask me about the campus in 2007. Oh my God, I had fun. And so that time for me between sophomore and junior year was was when there was a lot of contradiction. I was the one that always had to have an unclean spirit cast out of me. That is a spirit of lust that is upon me. There is something wrong. A lot of crying, lots of shame, until I studied to have continuous fractures and continuous breaks because my sexuality felt solid. It was wrong. It felt wrong because someone was telling me it was wrong. But I could not make my spiritual practice adjust to that part of me that felt sincere. I just couldn't tell myself or anybody else why I was sincere. And so when I got to graduate school, in 2010 is when I broke away from Christianity, and I decided that I was not a Christian anymore, and was just like, oh snap, all I know as far as spirituality is Christianity, so now what? So then I began to search for the divine feminine. Does anyone follow Stephanie's I don't know why she is driving me crazy. I just love her work. The blood orange is my favorite one. But at this time is when I started to study other faiths, especially indigenous traditions. And consequently, this is also the time when I began my sexual revolution. And so I began to study the Neter and Neteru, so learning about Het Heru, or Hathor, or Offset, being able to see these feminine figures who were sexual and they were goddesses. Like, what is that movement? Then starting to learn about and study Hinduism and Shakti and Kali Ma. Then when I found out about Ishtar or Astarte, who is a goddess from Canaanite and Babylonian practices, and mixed in with Egyptian practices, to find that she was also a goddess of sexuality, and that her priestesses in the temple were temple prostitutes. I probably was a temple prostitute in the past life, because I think that if you were having sex right, it absolutely is holy, it absolutely is sex. I mean, it absolutely can be church. And then I learned about Ifa, or the Orisha culture. The first Orisha that I heard of was Oya, who is the goddess of change. I absolutely was in a place of change that time in my life. And then I learned about the Orisha Oshun. Shit hit the fan. So what is Ifa? In short, and it's a lot of history. In short, Ifa is an indigenous spiritual practice of West Africa, modern-day Nigeria, that survived the transatlantic slave trade. It is a practice where the African people were able to live in harmony with themselves and in harmony with nature, and they were able to take these phenomenon of nature, personify them, understand them as energies or as people, form ritual, form pataki that has survived for thousands of years. Despite enslavement, you can also see most of the Africans that were enslaved went to South America and to the Caribbean. In fact, the country of Brazil has the second largest population of people of African descent in the world, second only to Nigeria. So number one is Nigeria, number two is Brazil. I'm coming for you, Bahia. It's gonna go down. So a lot of people say, well, why have I not heard of this in North America if it's so popular in other places in the world? The context there is because of the method of colonialization. These places were colonized by the Spanish, so there was Catholic colonialization. The Africans were clever. They were able to hide their gods and goddesses behind Catholic saints. And so when they were worshiping, the Virgin Mary, they were actually worshiping Oshun. However, in the United States or North America, where it was Protestant Christianity, the Orisha, the energies faulted under the Divine Trinity, and so they were snipped out. Okay? Ifa, history, at a very broad term. Ifa is, anybody familiar with the photographer James Lewis? Yeah. So he did this modern series on the Orisha. He lives here in Atlanta. I love James. But he received some world-renowned fame 2 or 3 years ago and he is not a practitioner. He literally just had a thought that. And so he ended up creating this project of trying to re-personify what these gods and goddesses would look like and what they would be like. And so the Orisha pantheon, some people say there's 501 gods, some people say there's 1,001. It's basically the spectrum of energies that are personified that have black faces, because those faces are native to the place where the practice itself is native. And so we're going to focus on just a few of the Orisha today, especially in how they support this notion of sex positivity. So, common themes of sexuality within the practice. Polyamory. Polyamory is all through there, and we will look at some examples of that. We also have power via sexual essence. It's also a common theme when you look at different fables of the Taki of the Orisha. And you also see many occurrences of feminine defiance and therefore equality and therefore power. The women are goddesses. They are equal to the masculine energies. And when you come from a religious background that is also steeped in patriarchy, or you are by default not allowed to speak your mind, or you were second in being able to reach the Creator, to then be able to have feminine figures that have the same color face as you, who are also equal and accessible to the Creator, that just makes your whole shit swell up. Next slide, please. All right, so first of all, before we get into the Orisha, the energies themselves, I want to get into just briefly breaking down the word of the Creator. So there are, of course, many names for the Creator, even within the Ifa tradition. One of them is Oduduwa. The key word here at Oduduwa is Odu. Odu is a word that loosely translates to womb, or the womb of origins. So when we see in Ifa, they often have the image of the calabash or the gourd, and that is just representative of the womb of creation. Oduduwa translates to the power of the womb, or the reservoir of existence. Another name for the Creator is Olodumare. I wanted to point this to because when we talk about the Creator in this faith, we have to bring out the notion that it gives a nod to the essence of the feminine in Odu. That even in the word of God, that we have the word womb. Okay, well, you don't call it, in this tradition, they don't call God masculine or feminine. It's not God as a man or God as a woman. But definitely, if you were going to be the Creator of all, then you must recognize the place of the woman. Okay, next. So we have an Orisha, an energy in this practice called Eshu Elegbara or Eshu Elegba. Eshu is the owner of the crossroads. So if you ever see a road that's a T or a four-way or a fork in the road, Eshu represents that place in life where you have to make transitions, you have to make decisions. He is also the owner of all doors and all keys, okay? Oftentimes when you see his carving, you will see him with an erect penis. I'm trying to understand what's going on. Oftentimes, people will, even if men are having issues with impotency, they will often do ritual with Eshu, like, hey, help me out. No. The penis here is seen as a connector, so it represents his ability and even the need to cross boundaries. Cross boundaries in that he sits at the crossroads. He is the energetic intersection between heaven and earth, between the divine and man. And so the phallus here being a way by which that's literally a connector. So that's oftentimes why you will see him with the phallus. Okay? Then we have Oshun. My mama, turn up. Oshun is she is the energy of feminine sexuality, of sensuality, beauty, love, and conception. Her element is honey, the sweetness of honey. She once halted creation in that in the beginning there were 16, they're called Irumale, 16 energies that came and were here to build out the earth. She was the only female among them, and they left her out. And so she left and went to the Creator and was like, they have forgotten me. And when she left, everything halted, nothing would grow, everything ceased to progress. They came, those 16 women then came back to the Creator and said, what's going on? And the Creator said, what happened to the woman that came with you? You have forgotten her. If you forget her, everything you touch, everything you will profess will fail. And so with that, we have in the essence of creation, if you do not recognize the feminine as well, then you cannot progress. So this is a tradition that from the onset is one of balance of the masculine and feminine. She also has a path who is a sex worker and is the patron of prostitutes, especially in Cuba, and I will not missay her name. I cannot remember the name of that path, but you do have one who is the patron of sex workers. She had several husbands and partners. She's known to have been linked with Shango, Obatala, Ogun, Orisha, Oko, and Orunmila. In fact, one of my favorite stories of Oshun with Ogun is the Orisha of technology and the Orisha of warfare, the Orisha of metal smithing. So if you were building a civilization, you need all of these things. Ogun had become angered and left the world and went to hang out in the woods. And so everything started to rust, nothing would work. Obatala, Orisha of peace, would go and try to get Ogun to calm down and come back out. Ogun threw him out the forest. Yemiya, the mother of all Orisha, of the Oshun, came and said, baby, calm down. Nobody was on. Nobody could get Ogun to calm down. So Oshun, being the youngest among them, said, give me a try. And they left. So Oshun went to the woods, honey. She found Ogun. She started dancing. Bow, 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 bow. Work, work. She had her gourd that was filled with honey. And he's like, what? What's this? This look nice. She starts doing a striptease, taking off pieces of yellow cloth, dancing, rocking, twerking, working. Take a little honey, smack it on his lips. You like that? Dance him all the way out the woods. Back to civilization. What I love about this story is one, everything. But two, and you have to tell a story like this. Yeah. And then two, what I love about this story is that in studying with my elders, that they say that the gourd represents the power of the vagina and the honey of her fluid. Yeah. And so a woman can use the sweetness by which she is born with to be able to, again, continue civilization, to cool troubles, to cool minds. Again, if she knows how to work. Shoto. Okay. So then we have Shango. Shango is revered as the male Orisha of masculinity, of masculine sexuality, and virility, and machismo. He is very ornate. If you ever go to a Orisha party and somebody is like dancing with Shango, he just loves to dance, just loves to rock the party. He loves to flirt. He loves to be happy. He's very ornate. Sometimes he will wear baggy pants and try to let you know what he's working with. Or sometimes he will wear a skirt. And in my studies and in interviewing with people, what I really liked is that they say that Shango will wear that skirt because he is also in touch with that feminine part of himself too. That he can be machismo and still wear a skirt and you still go on it, which is true. He is also a polygamous king, and some of his wives are Oshun, Oya, and Oba. And there are some really good stories about their polygamous relationship, especially in regards with Oshun and Oba. We also have Oya, who is the Orisha of change, of death, wind, and commerce. Oya is the queen of the guardian of the marketplace, which I think is also dope, just talking about power of women. She also was the feminine warrior in that when it is time to go to war, Oya will put on pants and grow a beard. Yeah. So she is absolutely able to engage that masculine part of herself. And is still very feminine, and she is married to Ogun and Shango. As a matter of fact, she left Ogun for Shango, but still has a relationship with them both. You also see occurrences in gender duality. So we have Yemunja again, who is the mother of all Orisha. She's represented in the ocean, because we know that the ocean is where all life on earth began, and so she's the mother of all Orisha and all things. But her masculine counterpart is Olokun, which represents the depths of the ocean, the depths of the ocean floor, and the secrets that the ocean holds. You have Obatala. Again, I'm a priestess of Obatala. Obatala is said to be, he can be masculine or feminine, so he comes as a man or a woman, of course, because Obatala represents wisdom. Obatala represents light and high moral character. None of those things are inherently masculine or feminine. So if it's light itself, then light can manifest as light wants to manifest. You have Oya, as we discussed. She definitely has her feminine aspects, but she will grow a beard and put on some pants and be like, what? I think Oya is like Eve when she was a ride or die chick. Because everybody needs one. Every thug needs a lady. All right. This is an Orisha that I just learned about last night and had to include. This is Logunede. Logunede is the son of Oshun and another Orisha named Erinle. And it is said that Logunede is able to switch genders as he sees fit. And in some research that I did, that he is the patron specifically of the LGBT community. I am learning. This stuff is doing it for me. And just a note, as an Orisha, if you were going to be this high energy, if you cannot traverse gender itself as an Obatala or originating, then you require a complement. You need that masculine, that feminine to call yourself balanced, to call yourself to be elevated, to be a god or a goddess. You still need the balance. Okay? In culture. Okay, so I really want to show this clip of video. There is an Orisha called Gede. Gede is the son of Orisha Oya, but he is more popular in Baboon culture, like in Haiti as well as Benin, and I think the Fon tribe. Gede is associated with death, but in that he is also associated with sexual regeneration. And so in Haiti every year, they have a Gede festival that gets live. It gets real live. So I just wanted to show a clip that I saw and how they celebrate life. Wait, it's okay. Brief clip. Is that she had some spiced rum with pepper soaking in it and was putting it in everything that got created. She was, in this instance, what we call mounted, like when you go to church and you catch the ghost. She was mounted or had the energy of Gede that was on her. And so, some people, again, I was researching more about this festival, but some people are offended by the lasciviousness of the festival itself. Because, I mean, what you do when somebody just put hot pepper in the drinks. But it really is the heat of creation. If you are responsible for death, then you must have a hand in creation. So it's not just masculine and feminine, but you see balance. You see balance throughout the African tradition. Sexuality is absolutely a part of it. We don't fear death. We celebrate life. And we celebrate how life comes in the world. We don't heat it up. Okay, so within divination, Ifa Orisha practice is very heavy on divination. There is not a book or a commandment to say, like, this is our holy book. It's very heavy on divination and finding everybody's individual path and destiny, and then helping to get their personal guidebook on what they need to do to be their most successful self. Very heavy on divination. And so I learned that there are some, they're called Odu. Odu are the sayings and the parables that come out in divination. Again, Odu is that word womb. So here we have Odu or womb, and each one has a different symbol or a different meaning. So there are Odu that talk about when the smell of the vagina was created and it began to attract a man. There's Odu that are specifically about anal sex. There's Odu that are specifically about rough sex. But there is not an Odu that explicitly outlaws homosexuality. That is not there. And I keep asking, like, somebody needs to tell me. Because everybody, people got their feelings. But it is not there. If you cannot tell me, then we can't talk about it. Don't translate, tell me. And it is not there. And I love that too. I was doing research earlier this week just about Obatala. And Obatala is considered the king of the white cloth. He's the king that goes to bed in white and gets up in white, talking about his character. He said that white reflects everything and is everything. Obatala is inherently the Orisha that is diversity. We can talk about the prism and we can split light all day. We can get real nine. But when you put those things together, then you have the white cloth that is Obatala. So you cannot have a king of the Orisha. You cannot have the father of all Orisha, these holy things, and call yourself someone that's not for all people. It just does not add up. So I just want to go through a few pictures that I found. So in Nigeria, there are several different tribes. This is one tribe called the Igbo tribe, and they have Mbiri shrines. I had never heard of them before, but these are explicit sexual carvings or sexual sculptures that they have in these shrines. Why? I don't know. I don't know if they're like the Kama Sutra temples in India, I don't know if they were there for fertility. I'm still learning, but I know that they had to be shown. So, oh, not yet, go back, thank you. This is, I'll read the caption, a shrine carving with an erotic fertility theme. This is a detail of a stand for a container of Neolithic axe heads, which are regarded as the symbol of power of Shango, god of thunder. Y'all know how Thor, lightning and thunder, he carries the double axe? Shango carries the double, he carries the double hammer. Shango carries the double axe. He's also the god of thunder. So anyways, in this scene, you have a woman here and then you have two men. So now they're engaged in group sex, and this is an ancient artifact. Ancient African artifact for that. Another thing that I have learned is that there is the concept of female husbands. So in Igbo and in South Africa as well, the country of South Africa, Igbo tribes in Nigeria and in South Africa, and I'm sure other tribes too, women will often take other women as wives, especially when it comes to political and economic power. I think that must be mentioned. And then a few pictures that I found in a random book in the library. I was so happy. Caption here, portrait of Adie, a transvestite Ajemo priest having his hair wrapped in a female style by his two wives. Ajibo Town, July 1986. Next, a woman possessed by the trickster deity Eshu, wearing a carved penis and testicles under her wrapper. So here she has the phallus here, and she is mounted with two transvestites pause for a photograph on the road just outside the Ajimo Grove at festival time. Now, public, there is no shame to that. Now, again, I'd have to learn more about context. I don't know if this is day-to-day expression. I don't know if it was for festival time. I do not know, but I'm fascinated, and I continue to learn more about this every day. Because I've heard people tell the story that sexual diversity was an implant and suffrage of colonialization and of slavery. And that's not fair. It's not a byproduct of suppression. Because people being people as long as people. And you continue to see artifacts like this. Okay? That is it. So this is information. Let's talk. This is my website. I do readings. I'm an educator and a spiritual consultant, as well as give classes on Yoruba Orisha culture. I wanted to have time for questions and discussion. Can someone give me a time check? 4:46. Ooh, we did good. I didn't take as long as I thought it would. Wow. Okay.
You were speed talking. It's like,
I was. Was I speaking too fast? I would love to clarify anything. I know I was speeding through. No question? Okay.
Yes. Well, not about the presentation.
Okay, let's talk about it. Okay.
So when you were speaking about your last sort of company,
Okay.
on a Christian that walked in South Mississippi, and that been my whole life. And then like when I hit grad school, my later grad school years, beginning to first learn more about energy, and then like trying to expand and start studying other spirituality and figure out how to integrate that. But I guess my question is like more personal, like for you, that process, like I know you said you had to break with Christianity, but so I guess just your process with doing that and releasing other aspects of your Christianity, releasing how integrated can be part. Because I'm still with the integration stuff.
Sure.
Like I have learned more about like Yoruba culture and about your wishes and stuff, and that's why I keep on my altar and stuff. So I'm not initiated or anything like that. I have a lot of friends who are more deeply into practice. And I find myself at times struggling with like things are going bad in your life because you don't believe like you to believe anymore. You're going to hell. You don't believe in Jesus like you know. So like struggling with that aspect. So just and my family's still very much like it's talking about mother that day, and I said something. She was like, I know you put stuff on your page about like the universe and about like the moon and stuff. I believe in like the divine. She was like, what about Jesus?
So the question is, how did I transition from Christianity to other?
And like I guess integrating that for you.
Got it. Okay, that's a really key part of the integration. So The transition, all I can say, it was gradual, and it was the introduction of new things. For the first time, I was around people who were not all Southern Christians. And so because I was in a new place, and I asked questions, and I'm naturally curious, and I was learning, and I was like, oh shit, wait, this is new. So it was a steady breaking. Even before that, I remember being at a Baptist Youth Convention. I was 16. Look. Ooh, they used to be, ooh, okay. So I remember being at the convention when I was like 16, and we were in a class called What Do Baptists Believe? And somebody said something about, alcohol and we're not supposed to drink. And I was like, but Jesus turned water into wine. And then somebody else was like, well, you drink, you drunk. So that's not what we believe. And I remember for the first time in my life saying, well, that's not who I am. I'm not Baptist. So that was my first experience of being able to decide something that was against something that was fundamental. So it was very gradual. It was not something that I sought out. As a matter of fact, the moment when I was not Christian anymore was very hard. It was very painful because that was all I'd known. I remember that day, and it was very hard. I was depressed for a while. Because what do you do when all you know about spirit, all you believe in so I was very upset, very depressed for quite some time, and then started searching because spiritual foundation keeps me afloat. The integration has come through compassion and grace, knowing that this path has not been easy to be something completely different. And so for people who are still, I feel like I remember when I was, and I also know that I'm not required, that we don't have to believe the same thing. So my mother does sometimes still, if I ever put anything on Facebook about it, so when I was a Christian, and she got to call me. But when I initiated and became a priest, she and my father were there. Scared as shit, but they were there. So there's been this dance within my community and especially within my family to be something that's completely different, but then be sincere and be compassionate, to answer questions the best I can. I also remember being a Christian and being angry if I could not answer questions. And so I don't have that anymore. I'm like, I don't know. I'm learning. But, so anyways, that has been, I guess, the highlights of my transition.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, please.
I'd like to add something like that.
Okay.
As her sister.
Because
I think your journey is still continuing, Danielle has been on this walk for a while, and so I'm the big sister. Danielle's the baby. So, mom and dad, they call me, what is your sister doing? I'm also in the house. I need to go check on them. So we all have been like, Danielle. It ain't just been mom and daddy.
Yeah.
I'm the big sister. I'm like, Danielle, I got some questions. So, and she's taking it so gracefully, though, because when people question you, you can choose the way that you respond. You can think, negatively. Look, nobody asking me no damn questions. This is what I do and this me. So, but she is been very gracious and just very humble in her experience. She educates us as well, which I think is something my mom and dad a little bit.
A little bit more.
She's not as she's not really militant with it or whatever. So I'm so proud of you. That's so cool.
All right, Jackie, that is
Yes, we'll do the 20 later.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Zuleika Shepard-Clark, and I specialize in Oshunality, which actually, when you look at the more translation, is Oshun's honey. And so the stories and looking at what that looks like. And so I appreciate your work, and I think it's really important. And I think that I'm so grateful that we have pre-colonial conceptualizations of what genders and sexualities look like. And I put quotes on that because gender is a colonial imposition. Yoruba is a genderless language. There's a gender, there's a pronouns. So patriarchalization occurred through us being forced to speak English, which is problematic in the syntax structure of our sentence formation, okay, and the way now how we think and how we are now forced to think through English. I'm also on a mission to decolonize sexuality, and I'm using work like this to try to model what does sexual liberation and emancipation look like. And I'm glad that there are models out there, and I'm glad, I'm just very appreciative for the things that we cannot see. Because my eyes are westernized to look for certain things, but Yoruba taught me that beauty emanates from a place that which cannot be seen. There's many different stories and many different ways of viewing things, and I think to have a better understanding about what that is. I mean, the fact that like homosexuality, you can't find it there, it's from the Europeans, there's a truth to that, in that when you look at homosexuality, it's a term that was created in the 1800s. That's a fairly recent concept, along with heterosexuality. It's even newer than homosexuality. And have it be an identity in this all-encompassing way of identifying to be a human. So I think, long story short, this is awesome. I'm really into it, and there's so much there. There's so much to learn within our bodies, with our ancestors, with spiritual realms, with culture, with history. Like, there's just so much there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Are you doing any spiritual readings?
Yes.
This week?
Oh, I can. Here? I could.
Like now?
Hey, I know how much energy that takes.
I can absolutely do a reading. Have shells will travel. I will be here this week. If I got a glass of water in a quiet corner, we can work it out. So I would love to. Just about reading, like, I love it. Oh my God, it is so much fun to me. It is a process of translation to me, and there is nothing like one moment in your life, like, I hope, I wish, I need, I hope, and then being able to have a spiritually supported strategy to make your life progress. In this faith, this practice works for me because EFI is all about identifying your roadmap, your individual roadmap on who you are and helping you to do that. So the fact that I get to be a conduit for that is an honor, and I do not take it lightly. I would be more than happy to help.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I know that you mentioned that there's no prohibition of same-gender loving relationships. I'm wondering, you talked a lot about the Orisha and how it seemed like most of them had sort of like male and masculine
Yes.
and female gendered partnerships among each other. Are there any that have feminine and feminine or masculine and masculine partnerships or relationships among the Orisha?
Not that I have studied, not that I have seen. A good friend of mine who I really worked with, named Asante said, who I really worked with to help pull this together. He says that in the context of Yoruba, that procreation and fertility is public, but sexuality is private. And so the context there was we married oftentimes for the sake of procreation, but what was done behind doors is behind doors. So that's one reason you won't see written textual prohibition. But I have not yet studied any within the Orisha. Now again, there are hundreds. I just learned about Logumede last night. I changed gender, so I don't know.
I'll put you to a source, Queering African Spiritualities by Connor and Sparks, and in there it talks about different narratives of gender queer and gender non-conforming and sexually fluid narratives. Awesome, he's done the work.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I had a question. Since EFI doesn't use written text or like, how do you, I guess, begin to learn about the stories and like, kind of like study them and conceptualize them with elders? Like, if you can talk about what that process of being taught has been like for you.
So that can be tricky because it has been ancestrally a spoken tradition, and so there have been translations, and now there's so many websites and there are so many books that it can actually be overwhelming. She's like, where do I go? Do I just type in Oshun? Right. So to be able to have guidance in it is to be able to join with somebody who is a practitioner. If they are not initiated as a priest, but they are connected to a priest or an elder, then that is one way to begin that relationship. It's a very family-oriented structure. So like my godmother, my Ia, she's really my grandma. And she's 85 years old. She sings Fever. She gets her nails done and say something.
Right.
Love her. And all my elders are my aunties. And we talk and sit around and talk about Throwback Thursday, but we talk about Orisha stuff. And so it's very family-oriented, which does a lot for me. Because I used to want to sit and talk with the pastor after church, but you couldn't. You had to go to the church office and do stuff. So that's the way, is to literally link with a family. But you can start just by researching, but it really can be a lot. With books, there's so many books. That's the best recommendation, is to, if you're interested in learning more, link with someone who this is their practice.
And there's also podcasts out there that talk about that. One of them is Pandemic Corner. He always talks things about it and what to look for, what you need to understand. So there's a lot of information.
There's a young woman on Facebook I love. Her name is Alafia, Alafia. She is hilarious, and she does videos and memes, and she knows what she's talking about. So that's definitely somebody you can at least be able to get the ear for the conversation. Yes.
Sorry, I missed. What's the distinction again between Issa and Yoruba?
That's a very good question. Outstanding. So Yoruba is actually the ethnic group, the tribal group of Nigeria. And so in North America, sometimes the name of the tradition is called Yoruba. If you go to Nigeria and they be like, Yoruba, we are Yoruba. What do you mean? Ifa is considered a tree. Ifa is the trunk. And then there are different branches or expressions of that faith. You have Santeria, you have Condoble, you have Umbanda, you have Lukumi, you have all of these different things. You have Shango Baptist in Jamaica, so many different expressions. But that is the differentiation. Yoruba is the people, but sometimes it's the name of the tradition itself in the West. Okay? Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Characterist, and my question is related to the work that I do, what you're telling me right now. It seems like so lost in ocean so many years ago. Thank you. So I help survivors of sexual assault. I teach consent, I teach healing. So my question is, what is the best way we should call upon for survivors?
Okay, so you're talking about with your work?
Yeah, I mean, specifically survivors of rape, just the
Okay, so I'm not gonna cry because, so I started following you because I started dealing with my assault this year that was 8 years suppressed. And so, who step one? That's hard. I'm thinking of any of the primary women. I'm thinking of Oya, Yemiya, and Oshun. Because if you're dealing with trauma, then you need the energy of a mother. And there is Yemiya. There's also a Pataki of her, and she was assaulted. There's a story of her being assaulted by her son. Yemonja or Yemaya, so Yemaya is one spelling. There are a lot of different spellings. So she was assaulted, and it almost broke the world. I think Obatala almost really had an issue. Good almost lost my life. So then there's Oya, who is a feminine warrior. She is a fierce mother, and she will go to bat in a minute. She would put some pants on and some Vaseline on her face and take off her earrings. And so sometimes if you need to deal with that rage or that energy as a woman, you can call it. But then there's also Oshun, who is the mother of the river and of sweetness and of cool water, and who wants her children to be happy. If you are not happy, if you are not happy, then there is an issue. Because there is so much beauty to life, and flowers keep blooming. And, her element is honey and bees and richness. So I think that within the three of them, that any assault survivor can find a cycle of healing. Yes.
I would add to that. I initiated in 2012 also. But I'm from Colorado, and I was introduced to Ifa in Atlanta when I was 18.
Okay.
So it was in the South where I became woke to start. But I would add to that for survivors of Oshun, who is, because it is the death, because it is the secret, because it is the suppression, because it is because she also, because we know Oshun can embody both. So I would add that piece to survivors.
Foundation. Oshun is also a foundation, so to create a new foundation too. I mean, you can find so much truth. Thank you for adding that.
And then I would like to add one too.
Okay.
In Brazil, candomblé, nana. Yeah. Great grandmother, moonlight, but again, she deals with rape and incest as well. I think there's stories of her dealing with it and her being someone to call to.
Nana, N-A-N-A. Okay, very good. What time is it?
5:05.
5:05.
Are you based in Atlanta?
No, I just moved back to Orlando.
We're having lunch.
I know you from somewhere. I have seen you.
I'm everywhere.
I have seen you.
That we'll talk about lunch.
Yeah. I live in Orlando.
My godfather is awesome. We'll talk. I'll see you in
Anybody else? What we got? We got 10 minutes. Yes.
So, you mentioned earlier you were talking about the different religion, the different African religions.
Yes.
And so for someone who is new to this and trying to figure out what might be best for them, it's similar to the other question about how do you get started if you want to research Ifa. How do you decide, is it Ifa or is it something,
Right. I vote go for feeling. Please don't do fad. Because a lot of people are doing this like it's the new high cross.
Right, exactly.
Don't do that.
Maybe.
Don't talk about lemonade. The projector gonna go out to
Tell them not to watch speak of it.
But I just say experience it. When I went to my first service, I was like, oh snap. I felt it immediately. It was the realness. That was me.
Okay, so that's a good.
Right.
Well, how do I find a service?
Got it. Okay, so you're in Atlanta?
No, I'm in California.
Oh, where? Oakland? Oh, it's not people in Oakland. Okay, so I would do a recommendation. I know somebody who know people from California. I can try to hook you up with some folks. I do my best. You try to go with recommended people. There's people out there that's crazy.
You're getting all the information and all about the
Anybody else? Anybody else?
Inexpensively.
Yeah.
I would say, on that note, what is the best approach? Because in my area, I have a friend who works with an Ifa priestess, but the culture or the climate is that the information won't be passed. So I'm just kind of how do you approach a not very permeable culture?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And one that I don't feel fully qualified to answer because that has not been my theory.
Okay.
I am aware that there are people who move through this like it's the death of night because ancestrally it was life or death. And so some people don't have that same subjugation or that same fear. It's just now practice. It's just now ritual. And you talk about it. Almost like some people who want to pledge in college. You can't tell them you want to pledge. You just got to keep showing up at the thing. At the mitzvah. At the thing on Tuesday night. So, where are you in Atlanta?
No, I live between like DC and Baltimore.
Oh God, y'all are the places where it's people. Okay, so I know that like DC has a strong Akan practice, which is out of Ghana. Similar but different level perspective. And I know that there's Orisha people there too. Again, recommendation. I know some people who are from up there, so if you're looking for somebody that's not crazy, I would love to try to connect you. Okay. If anybody is interested, I would love to try to connect you with a community that's local. Because trying to read stuff online is hard. It's so much. And you can't get really like spiritual experiences from the screen. So, anyways, that is all from me. Again, thank you. If you are interested in a reading, absolutely come and see me because I will do it. You are kidding me.
Wow, you were fast.
What was your name again? Say thank you, Trisha. Okay, yes. You have a question?
Who in here is Tiffany R? That's me. Okay, we need to talk because we have the same last name, but it's not a real common class.
Y'all family.
Yeah.